Hi, this is Kasian, and it's time for a weekly conference call at VectorspaceAI. We'll start with what's happening around the world first. BTC is at 58K, ETH is at 2K, and the Dow is making new highs at 33.4. Strong evidence has been found for a new force of nature, and that's based on the muon particle. Researchers demonstrate first human use of high bandwidth wireless brain-computer interface. So of course that's interesting for anyone in artificial intelligence or neuroscience, as we can collect more data on how the brain works. More space companies are IPOing. On the industry side, a lot's happening, and we'll just boil it down to some of the most important events, developments, and in particular that relates to artificial intelligence applied to drug discovery. And the headline is that it's starting to live up to its hype. And what we know about repurposing drugs based on natural language understanding correlation matrix datasets is that it can be done. You can form relationships between genes, drugs, and diseases that result in effective therapies. Under themes and events, there's been a new bacterial homing device discovered at Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, where the device looks like a small missile, and scientists are using this device to attack bacteria in new ways. There has also been a development related to lithium-ion batteries and new chemicals, new materials being discovered, and that also relates to materials being discovered that are impacting biology as well. So take a look at those headlines when you can. Let's see if I can bring up the exact headline for you here, so you can search for it and find it yourself. A new type of battery charge that can charge 10 times faster than a lithium-ion battery is created. When you look at some of these kinds of events described in either a paper or a press release or a news article, it's important to dig down to determine maybe what materials they're talking about, what polymers they're talking about. In this case, it looks like a redox active nitroxyl containing polymer, and you might want to insert that as a theme and in fact get a very specific thematic basket related to that particular theme. So digging down in press releases and news articles and new papers published is an important thing when analyzing themes and events and generating thematic baskets. Under the corp side, we are interviewing firms related to our operation in the financial markets. It looks like we're going to need more than one firm, so we're spending some time on the legal front doing that. We are also reviewing the organizational structure of the company, which includes our core corporate structure and our team structure. We'll be talking more about that in a bit. On the engineering, product, QA, and ops side, we've got two data engineering pipeline categories. The first is for the financial markets or the financial industry. The second is for space biosciences. We also have one visualization pipeline, and we're still building out the visualization pipeline. That's going to be a long-term effort of this company. It'll happen in stages with basic visualization available initially. This would be graph networks, and then moving toward an AR, XR approach, augmented reality, extended reality approach toward visualizing data so that we can supercharge data interpretation essentially. And we have a data acquisition effort going. We always have data acquisition efforts going, but this is a very specific one related to, we have two specific ones related to the National Library of Medicine, PubMed, and all other repositories related to life sciences in the world. And of course, a focus will be on space biosciences, with one of the repositories being the NASA Life Sciences Data Archive, LSDA, for space bio research. And we'll talk about more targeted data sources and acquisition efforts related to this in our strategy section. Under customers, partners, and collaborators, under the financial category, we're looking at CoinMetro, a rollout with CoinMetro, and we have been for a couple of weeks. We're operating at their speed. They need to free up a couple of engineering resources, so we're waiting to hear from them. On the ALBT side, Alliance Block, that is prioritized, but at this point we've got higher priorities related to a few other companies. So Alliance Block is in the pipeline. Some of these companies include Morgan Stanley and Lake Partners and WorldQuant, who we've met with already, and they're determining how they want to run trials with us. Morgan Stanley has asked for more information, and so has Lake Partners. Lake Partners said that they'd be interested in a trial in about a couple of weeks. And WorldQuant mentioned that they'd be interested in another trial. They came back to us after 2 years, after they reorganized a little bit, and this is how they came back to us, through new data. And they are interested in understanding how correlation values change over time based on historical news, analyzing historical news. So they're waiting for us to, we're both waiting for S&P to provide us with historical news data so that we can go back and look at the historical performance of correlation values. And so that we can demonstrate that they do, of course, change over time. And then WorldQuant will go ahead and conduct a trial with us, and each trial requires VXV. So this is the first time that we've been talking about VXV as being required for a trial. And so far, so good. Every company that we've talked to, well, at least the last 3, have been open to holding VXV for that trial. And of course, it is in fact a requirement. Tomorrow we'll be meeting with Schoenfeld, and this will be the second time, so we're looking forward to that meeting. We had a great meeting with them initially, so we're anticipating good things from this one. In terms of S&P, we have been in communication with them, a couple of groups. We've been in communication with their crypto indexing group, and their crypto indexing group mentioned that they cannot share any information related to the crypto index. So we respect that. They did mention they'll be looking for additional case studies, use cases that we can provide them with. So we went ahead and let them know that working with their Dataset group, their market intelligence group, we'll go ahead and show them the use cases, more use cases when we roll out with their Dataset group, showcasing group. And we are also waiting on another group within S&P to deliver licensing agreements to us so that we can move forward with not just their pricing data, but also conference call transcripts and the historical news data. And because it's taking so long with S&P to actually deliver licensing agreements to us, we are looking to advance either CloudQuant or GNC at this point as new engineering resources free up. So we'll keep everyone updated on those efforts, but we do have to prioritize based on fastest path to revenue and of course the opportunity. And then we're still under customers, partners, and collaborators, and Space Biosciences is our next category. And our collaborators there, Lawrence Berkeley National Lab and Mina Bissell, we're continuing to work closely. We'll have more info on that later. And then, of course, CERN, we have a data acquisition effort happening with CERN. Sales and marketing, that continues to be throttled. We have plenty to do, and we are maintaining our current relationships and keeping them nice and warm. On the IR, PR, and Marcom side, we have a pretty unique marketing effort happening, you might say. And that relates to the way that we introduce the world to data provenance for data sets. Data provenance, data security, those are very important things. Data lineage, data governance. You have to know that your data has not changed. If it has changed, you're also going to want to know about that. You can't depend on a result or a return or a signal or any kind of alpha if you can't depend on the robustness of your data set or how secure the correlation values are within your data set. So as we've been talking with funds this week related to data provenance and data security, it's been a great platform for us to talk about the VXV utility token and how that is used to access data sets, but also ensure data provenance, data lineage, governance, and security. And each conversation has been very, very positive in terms of reception and the understanding that not only are we providing something that is critical to any data science or data engineering operation, any AI or ML operation, but it's something that they haven't seen any other companies provide to this degree. That was something that was told to us by two of the customers that we met with this week. And that's good to know. In terms of other companies, other partners of ours issuing PRs on their side, that is all in process at this point. It's just a matter of timing. We're working with some of the largest companies in the world on some of the most cutting edge AI and ML operations in the world. Next, we have questions from the trader base. The first one is, can you please share updates on PR and meetings? For example, Lake Partners, Hermes Capital, World Quant Millennium, Schoenfeld, State Street, Morgan Stanley, S&P. Okay, well, we just did, so this question I probably shouldn't have asked. I should have skipped over this one. In terms of Millennium and State Street, we are going to be talking with a few more next week, so we'll let everybody know what the update is next week. The next question is the progress with Kraken still on hold until finalizing the S&P PR and deals? The Kraken relationship is dependent on the data sets that we deliver to CloudQuant. The S&P Global has mentioned to us that they would not like data sets with their data being delivered to certain partners of ours, including CloudQuant. So we've had to wait. We want to put the best foot forward here with the partners that we have and the priorities that they represent to us. We are also waiting for licensing agreements from S&P. And without those licensing agreements, we can't move forward very quickly on servicing Kraken with the latest data sets from using S&P data from S&P. The next question is, would you consider creating a new token solely to fund VXV thematic basket trading? For example, airdropping, one for one, and so forth. And this question goes on. This can obviously be done post-onboarding of huge customers or whatever the team prioritizes. Merely a suggestion to utilize the alpha generating technology for VXV gain, team, and token holder. So the answer to this is that we have been talking with CoinMetro on a single token enabling a one-click experience for basket trading. This token would represent the weight that you have among the components in the basket, whether they were crypto or stocks. The token would represent the value of the basket. So that is in process. It's in the works. The next question is, I am curious about patent US 7987199B2 and how it's combined with GPT-3 and other language models to create superior relationship data. Obviously, we can't reveal too much information, but you could speak a bit about the significance of the patent and how it separates us from other companies and teams working in this space. It's my understanding that this patent was a large part of the success of SeekPod, and it seems like a great barrier to entry to competition if it's a large piece of the engine. But I'd like to better understand exactly what gold we're sitting on here. Well, the closer you can get to constructing a vector similar to the way a human does, the better. And that's always been our goal, to mimic the process or mimic a small portion of human cognition, mimic the way a molecular biologist does research or makes a discovery or a new hypothesis. When you look at the interdisciplinary way or the combinatorial way that people use in terms of their approach to solving problems in this area, you're going to find most of the progress being made when you take that interdisciplinary approach, when you combine computational cognition and computational linguistics, computational neuroscience, and of course, computer science. When you combine these sciences, and maybe you're working in biosciences at the same time, when you combine everything that you learn there, you begin to take different approaches than the standard academic, even, or standard industry approaches. One of the differences in the GPT-3 model and the BERT model versus what we do is the GPT-3 model, OpenAI's GPT-3 model and Google's BERT model. They represent NLG. That's natural language generation. They're really good at getting a machine to generate text similar to the way a human might do so. That's natural language generation. Natural language understanding, NLU, focuses more on the meaning behind symbols, objects, and how they're stored in the brain. The meaning behind words. Words are symbols. And understanding the context and concepts associated to words, understanding that the meaning of a word can change, like the word cleave, which can mean to tear apart and bring together at the same time, depending on the context. All of that matters when you are making predictions. So predicting the next word is one thing, predicting the next concept, or predicting the next event, or the next relationship is another thing. We were under contract at Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, contract DEACO205H11231. And we were under a very specific contract to, and I'll quote, to perform the highest quality multidisciplinary research in the energy sciences, general sciences, physical sciences, biosciences, and computational sciences in a manner that ensures employee and public safety and protection to the environment. With prior permission of the department, the laboratory will perform other DOE and non-DOE federal government and other sponsored research that supports the laboratory's missions, notably those of the National Institutes of Health, the NIH, and the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, and the Environmental Protection Agency, the Department of Defense, and state government. So we understood that when we were working on these patents, some of what we were doing was going to be open in the patent as we filed provisionals. We were publishing essentially what we knew, and some of our work was in papers as well. We also knew that some of our work was not going to be published and was going to be kept as trade secrets, certain methodologies. And to this day, some are kept as trade secrets, but we are going to open up as much as possible without violating any customer agreements that we have or any agreements that we have with the organizations that I just described. We'll open up as much as we possibly can in terms of our approaches, methodologies, and applications in space biosciences. Next, we have strategy. And this is a good segue into strategy here, because we have been asked to contribute to efforts in space biosciences recently, but originally we had been asked to contribute in 2002. And as mentioned, that was with Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory and the Department of Energy, Department of Defense, in particular Navy's Power Division. Mina Bissell chaired the report on space radiation, and along with top researchers in radiation at Berkeley Lab, she put together a report to advise NASA on space biosciences for the purpose of sending humans to Mars. She, along with other scientists there, Eleanor Blakely and Amy Cronenberg, for example. Our team joined in 2002 after there had been work done in this area to continue to advance it in the area of relationship networking, understanding hidden relationships between objects or between proteins, drugs, diseases, and genes, and genomic pathways. And this collaboration of ours continues to this day. Our job when we initially started was looking at chromosomal effects of LET radiation. That's linear energy transfer radiation, and its relationship to DNA repair and genes that were involved in extending lifespan, leveraging NLU datasets and literature mining, literature modeling, in addition to visualization methods, data interpretation methods. And this was for the purpose of speeding discoveries up, speeding the process of discovery, so that new hypotheses could be generated and tested quickly. In the report that Mina chaired along with Berkeley Lab, the report described that the objective was to make sure everything was in place for a target time frame of 2020 to 2030 in terms of landing humans on Mars. And of course that would take a lunar base first, but primarily it would take an understanding of how to protect the human body when it came to tissue regeneration, all the way down to the DNA repair level. So this means we've got our start in essentially helping scientists speed up discoveries, and in that particular area of space biosciences. And especially if you consider what's happening now during this new space race, now is the time. And this is one of the reasons we've been asked to help in this area. So we are going to consider modifying our company structure just a bit to better represent our presence in the space industry, and also to better represent our core DNA and competency in space biosciences. Part of this will include a need to begin new data acquisition efforts. We have massive data acquisition efforts happening in the financial space, but we're going to extend those and restart those in the area of space biosciences. And this includes developing targeted data acquisition efforts focused on, for example, all peer-reviewed and published space biosciences papers and literature, all unpublished space biosciences papers and literature, all papers and literature focused on genes and proteins that we're targeting in this area, all papers based on the ECM, or the extracellular matrix, all papers and literature based on exosomes. And these are small data packets that cells use to transmit information. So we are also going to be looking at all biomedical encyclopedias and dictionaries and all National Library of Medicine documents at PubMed. I think there's about 122 million documents, and there are about 4,000 that get published in real time with 1,500 absolute new abstracts every 24 hours. And we'll also look at all genomic and proteomic ontologies and databases, taxonomies, and these include descriptions for genes and proteins and drug compounds. And we'll also approach this based on a near real-time level, where we are going ahead and extracting literature from repositories as the literature is published. And we'll do a little bit better than that too. We're going to advance into the area data acquisition related to micronutrients and nutrigenomics. And an additional phase will include all literature on epigenomics. Currently, we've been asked to review papers related to exosomes in the extracellular matrix, also including dormant DTCs, or disseminating tumor cells. We're also looking at papers on GCR provided to us by the lab. GCR would mean galactic cosmic radiation, and high energy or high charge energy particles, HZEs, and of course LET radiation fits under the GCR umbrella. So Mina and her lab will be letting us know what to work on next, or what to focus on next. What we're looking at right now are these exosomes, and we're looking at the fact that when Scott Kelly went to space, he stayed there for a year and then developed 30 times more exosomes than his twin here on Earth, and differently than 6 controls on Earth. So understanding why is it that the radiation, the HZE particles or LET radiation, had this effect on producing, or his body producing, more exosomes. Inside these exosomes are bits of protein and RNA and other kinds of biochemicals that send messages between cells, that enable the exosome to send messages between cells. And sometimes the cargo that these exosomes carry can be cargo that will cause cancer or miscommunicate something to a cell. So the importance of understanding the latest research in exosomes absolutely helps us to better understand how to protect the human body and keep it repaired. Understanding the relationships between biochemicals inside the exosome, and understanding how we can predict the function of a protein. If we see a new protein, there are about 191 proteins inside an exosome. And if you look at the way they interact, it's hard to predict their function sometimes. So when you look at the literature, and you can use correlation matrix datasets to form relationships or detect hidden relationships between these proteins, that's where we want to go. That enables a scientist to make a new hypothesis or even a discovery at that point. So as we have a particular knowledge domain expertise in this area, we're going to apply it. We have an obligation to do this. So we're looking forward to doing this as a team, but also learning in an interdisciplinary way. And this relates to something called dynamic reciprocity. This is something that Mina Bissell moved forward, this communication that happens between cells in the extracellular matrix, and communication as observed recently happening using exosomes and their cargo. So communication between the financial industry and space biosciences will benefit us. We'll take an interdisciplinary approach. What we learn from one will apply to the other, and vice versa. What we do know also is that trillions have been allocated, as we've mentioned before, to life sciences. And our focus is going to be space biosciences, which impacts all of life sciences. It impacts all of pharmaceutical development, drug development, and cures for diseases, cancers. And that's one reason we're going to focus in this area. It will also enable us to showcase what we are capable of doing. what our core competency is. And showcasing what we're doing in space biosciences applies to all industries. Eventually, we'll have our own wet lab. In the meantime, we'll be talking to other wet labs. When you talk to a wet lab, you can get a data set straight from the bench and analyze that data set and combine them. We'll be talking with the Buck Institute, Calico Lab. We'll be talking with Human Longevity. We'll be talking with other groups that specialize in the area of repairing and protecting human DNA for the purpose of space biosciences. We'll be combining their data, and we'll have large data sets that are combinations of data from a variety of institutions. That will also mean that we'll have the best data engineering pipelines for space biosciences. And these won't just be applied to biology, but discoveries in new nanomaterials, also connected to protecting and repairing the human body while in space. This has been a pre-recorded call. If you have any questions, feel free to join us online. Thanks.